Now, here's another issue with the education system that you keep touching on, is that the standards have been loosening over time.
Right.
And I think that probably came more from the university side as just a cynical business. They want to keep butts in seats. And so before college, in the public school systems, I think it's more the parents would get angry if their children weren't performing well, and during the PTA it would cause kind of these social pressures. Mm-hmm. Like, why are you failing my child? What's wrong with you? And I think that kind of was a spillover from the overprotective parenting in the 90s. Doing away with the latchkey kids. People are having less kids, so they're more protective of the kids that they do have. When you have 8 or 9, and some of them die to polio, or some of them, whatever, get shipped off to war, you're less micromanaging about any individual kid's success. But when you only have 1 or 2, and you start having kids in your, late 30s, you want to naturally make sure that kid has the best opportunity possible. But then I think kind of naively, parents, at least in this more overprotective generation and what became fashionable, became overprotective, bubble wrapped everything, didn't want their kids to ever have to experience even uncomfortable things like failure, losing at a sport, failing at their grades.
Helicopter parents.
Yeah. And so that's kind of why the public schools have loosened their standards. But through university, they don't want to expel kids because there's money in keeping them in the pipeline. So I think that's a big part of why standards loosened there.
Do you think No Child Left Behind was a result of that, of just those kind of parents back in the day, a generation of parents where they're like, oh, this is what the parents think, so we're going to put this No Child Left Behind thing. So basically,
I think it's the same naive thought process of, it's so painful when our kids fail, and so we're just going to define things in a way that they don't fail. It's like, okay, well, they're playing a game it's like when wolf puppies play and wrestle with duller teeth than adults, what they're doing is they're practicing against a skill that's eventually going to have real life consequences.
Right.
And so it's like if helicopter wolf parents made sure that they took out all, dentally removed the teeth of the puppy so that there was no chance that they ever get a scratch or anything. And so they're in this safe environment. But then when they're adults, they don't have teeth and they can't hunt anything.
What generation was that? Was that parents? Were those parents Generation X parents?
Jonathan Haidt would say that started in the kind of the 90s with, there were some child abduction scares. And so parents started to get obsessed about the well-being of their kids and not letting them play neighborhood games. And then I don't know quite how that. He also talks about how allergies went on the rise. That might just be coincidental, but it's now peanuts aren't allowed in the class, and now kids have even less exposure to peanuts. And
so that would be Generation X parents, basically.
Yeah, and maybe younger boomers.
Younger boomers. Well, that's if it happened in the 90s, I wasn't a kid.
I was a 90s kid, and my parents were boomers, so.
Oh.
Yeah. But we also played neighborhood games.
That's so weird.
So we were the last generation that played neighborhood games before the smartphones and everyone's online, and parents aren't really comfortable with their kids free ranging outside anyway. But then they're not practicing all these real world skills.
It's weird because my mom's Gen X and I'm Gen X, and your parents are boomers and you're a millennial.
Yeah, so we've talked about this before. Where
what?
She was just at the beginning of X and you were just at the end of X. So
yeah, so 90s for me is when I was in high school and we pretty much did whatever the hell we wanted.
Sure.
But that must have been the younger kids in the 90s when it started, because high school is just like, go do what you want. Don't die, son.
Good luck. Yeah.
So probably like late 90s, possibly like right. I didn't notice a huge difference. So that's interesting. What do you think about standardized tests for colleges, such as organic chemistry tests? Because I never went to one organic chemistry class, because it's like 60%, 70% of your grade is going to be based on your standardized organic chem tests. So I didn't go to class, and I just got like a 20 or 30%, and then
funny.
Went in, took the test, got an A- on the test, and so I ended up with a B. It's like, do you think that's if because I love studying on my own. I hate going to classes because you're really not learning anything more in classes than you are from a textbook, in my experience, for the most part. So it's enough. Like, I mean, if you're going to...
And it would be kind of a problem if the teacher did teach stuff outside of the textbook, and it's like, that's not something that the kid can go back and reference and re-study on.
Well, especially in
for
STEM.
The test.
You know, what else are they going to teach you in STEM? Maybe they've got some allegory notes or some...
No, and that's
nice
a good
stories.
point. I do think standardized tests are helpful, because there are jobs that require higher cognitive performance, and you want to make sure that there's a filter in place that, these kids performed more consistently against more complex ideas, or they had a better appreciation of how these systems are in place. They're able to retain the information more reliably. So I do find standardized tests useful for those high-skilled medical engineering jobs.